Hi there, Prairie Plant Girl here. Today I thought I would share with you some of my gardener gift ideas for under $25. I've based my price point for these gifts off of Amazon.ca for the most part. You will more than likely be able to find them for even less money at your local garden center or garden retailer. And I know as a gardener, I would love to receive any of these things, even if I already had some of them. I feel like a lot of these things are the types of things where you can't have too many. So you could give them as a gift on its own, or you could combine any of these things into a larger gift, pop them into a pretty pot or a mug or something, just to give a real package for the gardener. So let's check these out and see if you can find anything that you would enjoy giving or receiving this holiday season. So some of the less expensive things on my list would be plant tags. I don't think we can ever, as gardeners, have enough plant tags. I really like these. This is just a small selection of these tags here. I like to buy these packs. They come in like something like a pack of like 500, I think it is. And they come with 5 colors, so white, blue, pink, yellow, and green. And they're a nice size. These, I believe, are 4-inch. They're easy to write on. They're a nice smooth surface, so I can write on them. I can clean the writing off for the next year and use them again. And I've had these for probably 3 or 4 years now. They're getting a little bit faded, and it's probably time that I replace them. And I would love to find something like this in my stocking. Some other plant tags that I really like to use are these a little bit longer tags, but they have the hole. So hopefully you can see that little hole in the end there. And I like these for my perennial plants, specifically my perennial bulbs that I need to lift and bring inside every winter. They're easy to attach to the bulb or the bag of bulbs, corms, tubers, whatever it is that you're bringing in, and have them right with it. And then you can poke it in the ground or tie it around the stem of the plant so they're always together and you don't lose them. So I think these are another great tag, and they hold the writing on them well also. To go along with plant tags, I think seeds are never a bad idea for the gardener. Cut flowers have become very popular in the last couple of years, so maybe you want to give a selection of a few of your favorite cut flowers. Or if it's a new gardener who's just getting into cut flowers, maybe something they haven't thought about. Maybe give them some seed packs of some more filler plants, like amobium. I find Cosmo's a great filler, yarrow, basil is a great filler. So some of those plants that they maybe haven't thought of, they've got all the bright, punchy flowers that are so exciting, but maybe just to make help them take their bouquets to the next level, maybe they would appreciate something they didn't know they needed, which would be some extra filler plants. If they're more into growing food, then maybe share with them some of your favorite varieties of vegetables to grow. So just a few little seed packets, just the favorite varieties. And that way, if it's something you've grown before, you can always, if it's a new gardener, or even if it's not, sometimes as gardeners we just have trouble with something, so maybe we just share some advice. If they're looking for it, we'll be able to help them out with that. And I think something like some seed packs packed in a pretty mug, garden themed of course, and maybe a set or two of plant tags will be a great little gift. Something else as gardeners that we just can't have enough of, I think, are ties. So something to tie our plants to stakes with, to maybe hang a tag on something with. All sorts of things these ties can be used for, and these are some of my favorite types. So this is just some basic jute twine here in a nice roll. I really like to use this. It breaks down, so if I'm using it on something like vines, I don't have to try and pull that tie out before throwing it in the compost. It can be a lot easier. Something for some of my more delicate flowers that might need to get tied up is this Velcro, or I guess hook and loop. These ties, these come on a large roll, and then you just cut off the size you want. And then one side is kind of fuzzy and one has that little kind of hook thing, and then they clip together. Now I find this doesn't work that great for things that are heavier, like tomato plants. but they do work well actually for most of my smaller peppers, but they do, they only last a few years and then they start to pull apart. But I still do like these ties, and they can be reused for several seasons before they need to be replaced. Another tie that I really like is this wire, and it's just coated in, I don't know, it's like a spongy, rubbery something, I don't know. But you can get these little rolls of it fairly inexpensively, and just cut off the size you want. And I have lots of these cut, and I reuse them year after year until they just get worn out. So again, I can usually get a couple of seasons, probably about 3 out of each piece. It's always good to have an extra roll around in case you need it. One more of those things that I just can't be without in my garden is gloves. I'm always using my gardening gloves. I have some that'll be in the laundry. I have some that are soaking wet. I'll have some that are muddy. And I always like to have a few sets around. So this is a new package here, and you can get them in these large packs. Like this is a pack of 10. You can also get them in single sets or smaller packs. But what I really like, this is my favorite brand, is they're breathable, but they fit to my hand really nicely. And they're coated with this, I don't know, rubbery kind of neoprene. I don't know, does it say what it is? It says a latex coating on a polyester lining. And they are like, they don't feel like this rubberiness inside. They're coated. So they feel nice on my hand. They fit fairly tight to my fingers, which I feel like a lot of gardening gloves don't. So I feel like I can do some finer work. I still can't tie ties and things with them, but they are a lot easier to work in than a lot of gardening gloves that I've used. And because the back is this fabric here, it breathes well. And then because it's this rubber or elasticized wrist, I'm not getting dirt down my sleeve. So that's why I really like this style of glove. Other brands sell them, but this style I really like, and this brand seems to fit my hands well. I don't have a set out here right now, but if your recipient works a lot with like roses, or I find if I do a lot of like, when I'm doing a lot of landscaping where I'm moving like patio stones and things like that, I like a good pair of leather or canvas gloves. So that's something else you might want to consider. And with roses, maybe something longer. If that's something that your recipient is really into, then they might need a longer glove that'll protect their arms from the thorns on roses as well. Here's something that I am forever setting down in my garden and looking for. So I always seem to find them again, but I like to have a couple of pairs. This is my favorite right here for pruners. This is just a smaller pair of bypass pruners, and they fit my hand well. They're not an expensive pair, but they're just a nice small pair. I can throw them in my back pocket. I can take them with me, and they're easy to carry around and use. And they'll work for most situations. I can do some finer pruning, but I can also do some twiggier, larger twigs and things with these as well. So it's a nice size. I believe these are Vivosun. Fiskars also sells a really nice size. Unfortunately, I've set mine down somewhere, so I'm not sure where it is. But I do like those, and they're in a really nice price point. This is Fiskars brand, and this is a nice one if the person that you are giving to has some trouble with their joints and hands or strength. I don't know how well you can see that. Hopefully you can see this arm or leg of the pruner actually turns as I squeeze. So it's easier on your hands to use, and yet they still cut and slice really well. And so these are really nice. These are they're a little bit bigger in size, and they will handle a heavier duty branch, but they're not as good for fine work. I think having a set that you can easily close like this is really nice. So when you're looking something that the recipient can easily open and close is a good thing. And then the pruner that I probably use the most in the garden is actually these little snips. I absolutely love these little snips. These are just Vivosun, super inexpensive. You can get them in 2-packs, you can get them in singles, and you can get them in blue and orange. I like them in the orange. I do have a pair in the blue. They're easier to lose. But the orange, like all these other 2 sets, they stand out a little better, so I can usually go back to where I was and find them. I've had other pruners that are green. I do not recommend green pruners. They are so easy to lose. Blue I find can blend into a little bit, but something that's like green, red, or yellow usually will stand out quite well, so people can find them when they set them down. Speaking of blue, these are my go-to favorite set of garden tools. Now, I could not even tell you what brand they are. I've had them for years. They weren't the lowest price on the shelf, but I know they also weren't the highest. But they're a really good quality set. They're well built with a good, strong, heavy steel scoop or fork in this case. It extends well into the handle. The handle is a good size and it's somewhat rubbery, which I like, but it's not foam, so it's not going to break down, and it's not like cheap rubber. It's a good quality. It's not going to get sticky in the sun and when your hands are dirty in that. Sometimes I find some of them, the less expensive ones, get sticky. The wood handles, although they're very pretty, just take that little bit more maintenance that I know as a gardener, I'm just not going to do. So I really like these. I think these would be the two. You don't always need to buy things as a set, and sometimes the bigger set you get, the cheaper the tools are, because they're just throwing lots of things in to make it look like value added. So this is probably the one I use the least, though I do use it a little bit. This is really nice for planting. You can see it has the measurements on it, and it has it on the back and the inside, and they're very deep and well marked. Some are, once you use it once or twice, they're almost impossible to see, whereas this is well marked. Like I said, I've had these for years, and they're easy to read. It also has, I don't know how well you can see, a little serrated edge here, and it's starting to get worn down now, but it is good when you're working with a plant with lots of roots. You can use that to just kind of scrape those roots up and break them up if you're trying to cut a plant apart. It has a nice good point on it. So this is a good tool for planting, and also I use it for dividing plants. This I use mainly for scooping, whether I'm filling pots with fresh potting mix or I'm digging a hole to plant something in. This is a nice wide, it's a little bit flatter. It holds a fair amount of soil because it'll really mound up just with the shape here, and it works well for that. And these, other than my pruners, are probably my next go-to tool, and my gloves, of course. I also think a heat mat, though not totally necessary, can be very helpful for a gardener who is just getting into seed starting, and not just any seed starting, but if they're looking to start seeds that require heat or do better with heat from below, especially things like tomatoes, eggplant, and peppers can germinate just a little bit better with some bottom heat. And these used to be somewhat inexpensive, but they're starting to go up in price. So if you can find one at a good price, then if you know the recipient doesn't have one, or if they start a lot of seeds and maybe need a second one, this would be a great thing to give. So this is the perfect size to go under your 10 by 20 standard tray. So this is a size to go under this type of tray. This is your standard tray that a lot of people would purchase if they're purchasing trays and use. It also fits several of the smaller, less expensive seed trays on here as well. So you could probably get about 3 of the small kind of 12-pack seedling trays on here. So it's a good size for someone just starting out. And I've had just used 2 of these because you don't need them for everything. So I've gotten by with just 2 for many, many years, and I don't always have them both even going at the same time. It's just nice to have a backup if I need it. One more thing that I don't have an example of because it's on my wish list this season is a gardening journal. So there are a lot of different gardening journals out there, and you have to know if the gardener you're giving this to is someone who is a journaler. So I have tried many years to do a gardening journal, and I've tried many different ways, and I've shown some in some videos. The best way I've found so far is just a basic calendar and doing some writing, but that gets a little cramped for the things I want to write down. And this year I came across a gardening journal through Lee Valley, and it is a 10-year journal, which is exactly kind of why you want to keep a journal, right? So you can look back, compare year to year, and it keeps the years for each day all on one page. So you'd have like, say, July 26th, you would have entry lines for July 26th for 10 years on one page. And they're not a huge amount of space, but more than a little calendar square. So you can just write some quick notes about that day, what you planted, maybe what the weather was like, things like that you might want to keep track of. And you'll have that for 10 years to kind of go through, and it'll give you a really good way to compare your planting over the years and even the weather over the years. I think it could be a really invaluable resource. And now you could just use a notebook for that and do it that way. But this book also has some really good information in it for the gardener about planting, seed starting, different plants. There was a ton of great information pages in it as well, and it's all put together in just a beautiful package. So that is on my wish list this year. And you can buy that on Amazon, or like I said, I found it at Lee Valley is the specific one. So you can see here, I kind of started to put together a few things in some beautiful pots as well. And I think giving a gardener some beautiful pots. Now I would go, if it's as a gift, unless the person has asked for something very specific, I would go for something that's very simple. If you know their gardening style, you know, if they're more terracotta, grab them a few nice little terracotta pots. They're indispensable. If they like, you know, a more rustic metal kind of look, or ceramic, maybe just a plain white, or if they have a color you know that they use in their garden a lot, just a plain color, so that it's not some huge pattern or painting or something on the side that they don't want. But I think something like that, and you just give them a few pots, you know, a little herb starting kit, or, you know, just throw a few of these things we talked about today into a pot, or a nice set of pots like this, and that is a fabulous gift. I'll tell you, if I had something like this show up under the tree for me this year, I would be really excited. And as you can see, I already own all these things, but I would still love more, because I think as a gardener, like I said, I like to have this, it'd be nice to have a set of things in my greenhouse. I like to have some in the shed that I can just grab. And I even keep some of my gardening tools in my house. Like, I think I have 5 pairs of these snips. I have a couple pairs in my house, one in my grow room, one right by my kitchen sink for when I want to run out and just grab something quick. Either cutting a couple of flowers, or, you know, maybe a tomato for supper or something. Grab them quick. I have a few pairs in my shed, so yeah, I always have some of these around. So hopefully this has given you some really good ideas for things for the gardener in your life, or maybe some things for you to ask for yourself. And I will put links to as many of these products as I can find on Amazon for you. Because I know sometimes this time of year, depending on where you live, it can be difficult to actually find gardening merchandise in stores. But I would also look at your local garden center if they're still open this time of year. Up here in the north, sometimes they're not. And see what they have. Sometimes you can get things like the ties and the jute twine and seeds at your dollar stores. I wouldn't look for tools at the dollar store, but mugs, pots, certainly would be great to pick up there. So thanks for watching, and we'll see you next time. Bye.